All right, I'm here with George Rincon with Golden Boy Promotions. He's on a big show this Saturday in Dallas, his hometown. I'm not sure who you're fighting, George, but who are you fighting?
So right as of that I've heard right now, it should be a guy from Mexico. His record, I believe, is like 25-11. So got some experience on there, which will be good for me to get that kind of experience, have someone who's been in there. But I believe that one thing is, this is going to make me a better fighter getting in there, and it's going to be a good win for me too. So
yeah, let's talk about that, George, because you see how boxing is these days. There's a lot of young fighters out there, a lot of early 20s that are just kind of blowing up, right? Via social media, coming out with big wins. Your brother Alex just fought on the Ryan Garcia card here in Dallas a couple months ago. You're 29 years old. Where do you feel like you fit in the mix, just in the whole kind of the boxing scene with all these young guys coming up?
Yeah, unfortunately, I got a little late start just because I was trying to make the Olympic team. I didn't quite cut it for the 08 Olympics by like a year, or just short of a year. And I really decided to wait. I really wanted to try and make a run for the Olympics. So by the time the Olympics came around, I was like 21, 22. Waited a year longer, so I got a kind of a late start. I got a late start compared to all these people right now, because nobody, everyone after all the Olympic stuff, everyone is just, hey, as soon as I'm 18, I'm turning pro.
Right.
Especially with the young guys. But even at 29, I still feel good. It's I know it's kind of a late start in the sport per se, but I still believe that I'm still in the prime of my years. But I do have to pick up the slack for and even when I did turn pro, I did have a late or a rough start. I didn't stay busy right away. I did get a manager, but that didn't work so well. I was stuck on just sitting on the show for about 8 or 9 months. As a matter of fact, I didn't even fight with this manager, so
Wow.
That was a big issue. And as soon as I got out of that contract, luckily it wasn't too much of a hassle. I got out of that and I got a fight. I got my second fight like 2 months later. So and then now with Lamont Roach Sr., who's my manager now, we've been staying busy and just trying to we're on a roll, so it's just trying to keep that going.
You mentioned kind of getting the late start. You're 29, but 10 fights, 7 knockouts. Do you feel like in a way, just to kind of put a positive spin on it, it's somewhat of a blessing because you haven't really had the wear and tear of a ton of fights, and maybe just being an older, a little bit, more experienced in the world could be to your advantage?
Yeah, experience is always really good. Even though I haven't had like, a lot of fights in the pros, luckily my amateur experience has, or at least I try to, as far as the amateur experience, I try to take, what I try to take from that is the experience of that, and being able to, try to, staying calm, not go too crazy, lose my focus, and be relaxed in the ring. So I think that's one of the things that people should, see that transitions well from the amateurs into the pros, that experience. Even though it wasn't pro fights, it's, fighting is fighting. It's a different type of style now, but at the same time, it allows you to kind of, stay relaxed and stay focused and not go too crazy in the ring, especially coming, the first couple fights that you go into. Some people come in, you can tell right away, hey, I don't think this person had much amateur experience because they're like all over the place.
Right.
So, but at 29, like I said, I still feel good, and yeah, I mean, it could be a good thing. Even though with 10 fights, I still believe that, that experience is going to help in the long run, and I feel good. So luckily, I haven't had to take no punishment or nothing like that. So hopefully, that's that goes well in the future.
Right, and I think also, obviously, you're with one of the top promotions in the world with Oscar De La Hoya and Eric Gomez, Golden Boy Promotions, and Robert Diaz is your matchmaker. I would think that's got to bode well for someone in your position, because, we mentioned a lot of these young guys, that are just kind of being thrown out there, that you got a good team behind you that could hopefully move you along a little quicker.
Yeah, I'm sure within the next year and year or two, things are gonna, pick up pretty quick. Like I said, luckily I do have a good team with my manager, my coach, and the Golden Boy and promotions. Um, and hopefully things, just keep going smoothly. Take it one fight at a time, but hopefully we'll get to where we need to be.
Now you're super lightweight, right? 140
Hmm.
pounds. The 135, 140, 147. There's so many great fighters, young fighters, experienced fighters. Even at 147, you got Spence, obviously from Dallas, Crawford. You got Maurice Hooker, Vergil Ortiz fighting in Fort Worth the week after. Where do you see you've been in the ring, I'm sure, just, being in Dallas for, being from Dallas. Where do you see just your style and kind of where you fit talent wise? Do you feel like you're right up there with some of these guys?
Definitely the experience is going to help me in the long run. I still believe that I have things to learn, and these next couple fights are definitely going to make me a better fighter. But as far as like talent wise and things like that, I just do believe that I'm a good boxer overall. Um, I'm not, I don't really want to be the fighter that people say, oh man, he's a hard hitter, or oh that guy's super fast. Um, my fights, or at least my knockouts, have come from just being able to set my punches correctly. I still do believe that I do have a good pop and have quick hands. But I just always want. I'm a big fan of being able to outbox somebody and outsmart somebody, and do what I got to do to win, instead of like, oh, if he hit me hard, I'm gonna hit him harder, or things like that. So I'm a big fan of that. Work smarter, not harder, right?
Right, right. And it sounds like, for someone like yourself, you recognize where you're at. And, so it sounds like you're ready to get to that next level.
Yeah, man. And like I said, one fight at a time, and taking each fight, and of course doing what I got to do to win. Learn if there's anything to learn from that fight, definitely take it into the next one. But yeah, man, we'll see where this next year goes, and hopefully from there, just keep climbing the ladder.
Yeah, that's good to hear. It sounds like you're not a finished product by any means.
Mm. Oh no, there's always something to learn, especially in this game. It's always changing. People always doing some kind of different stuff. You see people working out and doing weird kind of stuff to get ready during their camp. So it's always a learning experience. But yeah, man, I just, there's always room for improvements, and I believe that each fight is just going to make me even better.
So there's a big fight coming up also in May. Jose Ramirez against Josh Taylor for undisputed, obviously in your weight class. What is your thoughts on that fight? And, how do you see it playing out?
I think Jose is going to be able to take that fight. It's going to be interesting to see, just because Josh Taylor is southpaw, so we'll see how if Josh Taylor can kind of pull some southpaw tricks on him, or anything like that, make him maybe think twice about certain things. But I just see Jose being overall a really good fighter, really good finisher. When he has someone hurt. But I remember him through the amateurs with Jose. So he's always been a really good fighter. So been a fan of him, and his style of fighting and stuff. So I think Jose should be able to take this, no problem.
Wow, those are big words. I think it's a 50-50 fight at this point. And maybe Taylor, just according to the odds, Taylor might be favored by a little bit. Talk about Teofimo Lopez. What are your thoughts on him? And he's a guy that may very well jump into the 140 mix.
I mean, he's a really explosive fighter. I was really impressed by what he did with Lomachenko. I'm a huge Lomachenko fan. Southpaw, of course, love his boxing style. With Teofimo and his power, and his quickness. I mean, he's fast. People don't really think, they hear Lomachenko and his angles make him look super fast, just because he catches you off guard, makes you look makes him super quick. But Teofimo is really fast and strong, and it's going to be a good mix if he, when he makes the jump to 140. That's going to be another big name and some big fights for sure.
Right. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the card that you're on, obviously, Vergil Ortiz Jr. and Maurice Hooker, big fight, not just in boxing, but for DFW. Virgil moved up from 140, as you know, not too long ago. I think he's had a few fights now at 147. And then obviously Maurice Hooker, who was the 140-pound champion, is now fighting at welterweight. I would imagine you know those guys both pretty well. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, more with Virgil. Growing up, because we kind of used to fight at the same gym. I think once or twice. I used to be in Viveros with him for a little bit, and of course in Irving Powell when we're at now. But as far as the fight wise, I mean, well, they both grown a lot, in the sport. Of course, obviously Maurice, becoming world champion, former world champion. But I think it's definitely one of Virgil's toughest fights. Everyone knows what Virgil brings to the table, and know how he is, and obviously having every win by knockout. But I think everyone, or at least me personally, is kind of interested to see what Maurice does, and how he's going to be able to, possibly take Virgil, into deep waters and take him the distance. See what kind of stuff he does to maybe, change up his game plan, make him uncomfortable. So that's really what I'm going to look at. Of course, Virgil's coming. He's coming for his head. So and Jose, took Maurice out, and was able to hurt him and finish him. And we all know Virgil's a really strong puncher. So if, does he hit harder than Jose? Is he going to come in? If Virgil catches him, then we might be seeing the same thing. But we'll just see what Maurice does to kind of adjust to that.
I know Virgil always talks about Jose being his favorite fighter too, and now he's going to get a chance to also fight the same guy that Jose unified the titles with here locally. It's great for Dallas-Fort Worth boxing. And I think I made a mistake earlier, so I'm going to correct it for those that are going to watch this interview. I think I mentioned you're fighting this weekend, but you're actually fighting the weekend after, March 20th, in Fort Worth at Dickies Arena on the undercard of Vergil Ortiz Jr. and Maurice Hooker. So there's a big fight this weekend in Dallas too. I don't want to confuse what card you're on with the fans. Yeah. So I just wanted to put that out there. So we mentioned Golden Boy. You feel like you got a good team around you with your manager and promotion. Have you guys talked about, you said maybe in the next year or two, but have you guys kind of put a game plan together to get you into some of these big fights?
Not at the moment, not yet. Possibly just because of the whole COVID situation and being the first fight coming back. But just speaking with my manager and stuff, and like you said, things will be picking up for me, especially because of my age. It's now or never. So you try to make some big moves, make something happen. But it's positive thinking, of course, as well. Just everything goes well. Hopefully within the next year or so, maybe we'll get a small regional title and one step at a time and keep it going from there.
Now, I know we were talking before the interview. You're kind of an old school guy. You're wearing a KISS shirt, which we can't. There we go. Rock and roll from the 70s and 80s during my era. So you're kind of a throwback guy. What are your thoughts on the whole social media aspect of things? Because as we discussed a little bit, you got a Ryan Garcia who's 8 million followers on Instagram. Teofimo is on there every day. You got all those guys at 135 just kind of blowing things up every day from Tank and everything. Yeah. I looked at your Twitter earlier. Didn't see a whole lot of activity. Doesn't seem like that's your style.
I'm not really on Twitter that much. I do have one just to kind of keep up with stuff and just, I'm kind of just the guy who's looking for gossip, but not so much Twitter. I'm more active on Instagram, my Facebook and Instagram. But it is interesting because, unfortunately, like I said, I'm not I am a social media guy. You know, like I said, I'm but more on Instagram. But I'm not that kind to like. I mean, I'm just posting everything. Like, hey, I'm live. I'm not really like that. My brother does a little. He's a little bit more active on there than I am. Uh, but you know, it's crazy to see how, you know, and unfortunately, it does play a role. I mean, some people might not want to say it, but it really does. Uh, just because people, you know, they want to see these kind of people. So, you know, that's one of the, I mean, not saying that Ryan's not a good fighter. Obviously he really is. And his last performance was amazing. Uh, but his social media stuff, it just, you know, gets those viewers going. And a lot of times that's what it comes to sometimes is like, are these people going to get views? Do these people have followers? Are they going to sell tickets? You know, that's the kind of people that promoters want to see. And so hopefully it doesn't hurt me too much. You know, I'd like to think myself as, you know, or goal wise, mentality wise, is like, you know, Juan Manuel Marquez and Chavez and stuff who, you know, they didn't have that kind of stuff, or, you know, a lot of the old timers, but I'm, you know, thinking of the people that I look up to, and, you know, like they, you know, they weren't, or at least Marquez, I don't think he really did have like a huge promotion behind them and things like that. And wasn't a talker, wasn't a necessarily, you know, blasting people out, you know, just went in there, did his thing. And that's it. And
Right.
people remember him for him. He's one of the greats because of that. So in my, you know, my personal opinion, I would like to be the kind of fighter that, oh, people remember me because, oh man, I loved watching him fight, not because, oh man, he had some funny stuff on his Instagram, you know?
Right.
So
Right. But you recognize it. It's interesting. I was listening to an interview with Regis Prograde today
mhm,
on Fight Hype, and he was talking about fighting Adrien Broner,
mm,
and and he made the point, and kind of what you said there with like the fans and people. He said when the fans start asking for it, that then you know there's something there. And obviously, you know, he's another guy that's pretty big on social media, although he's not there all the time. But
mhm.
obviously, you know, Broner, et cetera. So it was interesting. Another guy at 140, um, you know, looking for big fights. So there's definitely guys out there for you. Um,
Mhm.
you know, so I was just curious what your take was. Do you feel like you needed to kind of put yourself out there in that regard? But obviously, you're with Golden Boy, and you know you got a good promoter behind you.
Yeah, so
So
hopefully that'll, you know, work out. Yeah, hopefully we won't need to like start just making random videos on social media, but you know, we'll see. Like I said, one fight at a time, and we'll keep busy.
right, and if you keep fighting on these big cards like you are, which will be on the zone, that obviously will do wonders as well. We'll wrap it up here in a second, George. Appreciate you jumping on here, Jeff Zimmerman with Fight News. So what you mentioned earlier, you kind of like to use your mind, kind of outthink, outbox. Is that what you're hoping to accomplish on March 20th?
Yeah, you know, that's always in my mind, of course. You know, just being able to outbox somebody and, you know, hit not get hit. That's the name of the game. But you know, there's always a certain game plan that we want to follow for every fighter. You know, every fighter is different. Styles make fights. So um, you know, we'll see how things start off in the fight, and if we got to change things up, you know, you got to be able to adjust. But overall, you know, I think I have pretty solid basics, and you know, to be able to, you know, keep myself from getting hurt and winning the fight. So, uh, but yeah, you know, that's always my goal. You know, and that's the kind of fighter that I like to see myself as, someone that can outbox somebody, or you know, do adjust and do what I got to do to take the win. So, um, yeah, so that's what I'm, you know, I'm hoping to be able to show, just to be able to show a little bit of everything that I can do.
Awesome. And just to wrap up, any last shout outs, call outs to other fighters? Any last words you want to tell your fans?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to thank everyone who's been supporting me. You know, of course, people that follow me, of course, my family and friends, and my manager, Lamont Rhodes Sr., who's been, you know, nothing but good to me. In my Golden Boy Promotions, always, you know, it's a really good family feel for them. So big shout out to them, and appreciate for everything they've done for me so far. And just excited for next week, man. Is, you know, can't wait to land in DFW, be back in my home state, and you know, see family and friends in the stands.
And where are you right now? Where are you training out of California?
No, I'm in Maryland, so I'm
Maryland.
up with Team No Excuse. Yeah,
Okay.
up here with
Okay.
Lamont Roach. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, George. Well, I appreciate the time. We'll get this up on Fight News, and we'll get it out to the world. That was George Rincon, 10-0, 7 KOs with Golden Boy Promotions. Got a big fight coming up March 20th, Saturday night, Dickies Arena, Fort Worth, Texas. And you don't want to miss it. Be shown live on DAZN as well. And I appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, George, we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Take care.